artist is just being able to meet people and to work with them and to just get to know people from all over the place. And that is the beauty of the internet, because I live in the capital of Madison now, but I have lived in a small farm town and I have still been able to be an artist because I ship work out of my state and across the globe now. So a day in the life for me is very simple. Actually, I often feel like my life is very boring, very repetitive and mundane, but I like it. So I love to get up early. I get up by like 5 a.m. so I can be alone, so I can read, so I can drink copious amounts of coffee, and just sit in silence before the rest of my family is up. That is the best part of my day. From there, I'll have breakfast and then I'll go into my studio and I'll just do a bit of practice painting. I just create art without putting pressure on myself to make something. When you make the switch from painting for yourself to painting for other people or making a product, it can be very hard for your creativity to keep it flowing and to feel like you have good ideas and that you could do this, just simply because the pressure to make something as a self-employed person and to get your next paycheck can be very, very hard. So I just make art, and I make art that might not necessarily be good, but I just want to get it out of my system and enjoy my creativity. From there, I'll usually take a break depending on how long I've been in my studio. And then in the afternoon, I'll come back into this room and I'll work on client projects. The main bulk of my work is portrait painting. So I paint a lot of famous people. I paint family members. I paint pets. So I do a lot of personal projects for people, a lot of custom work. I'll work on those projects. I'll check in on the process with them. I'll talk with them about the piece. And then I just go back to it and I paint more. That is the bulk of my job, is just putting paint to canvas and doing that every single day. To keep it exciting, I try to paint a various amount of subjects, but most of my work does tend to be portrait paintings, which I'm happy with. It's my customer compromise. And at the end of the day, when I'm done painting, I just close the door to my studio and that's it. Like, that's my day. Some of the other projects I do, like working with other people, coaching or creating things, a lot of that is done via the internet or on my computer. It's really nothing too exciting. So I would say the most exciting thing about my job really is the fact that I get paid to paint, and that now it's more possible than ever for others to get paid to paint as well. That's kind of my introduction. So I will just share a couple more of the things that I do, because while I was looking at some of the other speakers today, a surgeon, EMT, there's an entrepreneur, there's so many really cool jobs out there that you can have, that you can pursue. And I think now, especially if you talk to a lot of up and coming artists, you'll realize how we tend to be a jack of all trades. So when I began pursuing my artistry, I realized that there was a lot that I did not know about the art world. You become very good at not knowing the answer to questions and learning on the job. For me, this meant making a lot of mistakes, or just taking more time to redo things as I learned and realized, okay, there is a certain way to apply paint. There's a certain way to protect your paintings. There's a certain way to ship them. Taxes were a whole nother thing that I still haven't figured out. But you also learn things like copywriting. You learn how to write stories with your words and create compelling mission statements and to talk to your customers and your audience and tell them a story. I had to continue to learn more about marketing and selling, not just artwork, which can tend to be viewed as a luxury item, but to just show people that artwork can be collected by all people. I had to learn how to code and do some web design and search engine optimization. I obviously had to keep learning how to paint and get better at my technique and my skill. Customer relations. I had to learn how to deal with angry customers or people who were unhappy or who had problems with products. That was always fun. And then probably my favorite part of my job is really the brainstorming phase. When you are self-employed, you have this wonderful ability to really steer your own ship and decide where you want to take what you are building. And so brainstorming and coming up with new ideas and talking to others about those and creating things is really just the most exciting part of my job. And I would say that would be one of the things that I have loved doing the most. Okay, that's kind of, I feel like I've summed up everything about being an artist as far as getting started and everything. I mentioned getting started on accident, but I guess as far as if you were looking to get started with art, there are so many different paths you can take now. You can go to school, and you can go to school right out of high school, or you can go to school after college or in your 30s or whenever you want. There's no pressure to do this. That's one of the beautiful things about being an artist, is there really isn't a timeline or a checklist that you have to follow now in order to create a successful and viable career. I got started on accident. I wasn't necessarily planning on turning this into anything. I just wanted to see what would happen. But for me, it worked out okay, and I've learned on the job. And I would say if it's something that you want to pursue, you just have to look at your options out there. You have to look at the artwork in the world, and that can be paintings, or it can be notebook covers or coffee mugs, or it can be billboards. There are so many different avenues that you can take, and art is really everywhere. You just have to begin to open your eyes to see those possibilities. I'd say that would wrap it up for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? If not, Nisha, Sophia, Pooja, the ones that we prepared, go ahead.
So where could we find your art? I think you have an Instagram account where you post all of your art, but I think your art's really cool. Is there like a website or something else too?
I do. So you can find my art on my Instagram, which is where I post it regularly. And that's Rachel's shop.co, and shop is spelled SHOPPE.co. And then you can find it on my website, rachelshop.com. And those are the two places to check out my most recent pieces and purchase anything.
Do you want to put both of those in the link in the chat for us? I think we got your Instagram already, but if you want to put your website.
I'll stick my website in there.
Perfect.
There. Yes, those are the two places to look for them.
So I do have a question. So what would you recommend doing if your family has uncertainty about like the career? Because as you mentioned, it's a little slow pace at the first. So how would you kind of go about going with that?
So for me, I actually had support from my family, and I was the one who would shoot it down, saying this is not something that you can pursue. This won't support you. But if you are the opposite, if you really are passionate about it and you really want to support it, I would actually begin to research and begin to find examples of artists you see that are thriving and creating work and doing well. And I would use those to just kind of add to your case that this really is something that you can pursue now, that you can make a living out of by giving examples now, because there are so many thriving artists doing what I do and more. And and having just a beautiful creative life from this income. So I would say look for examples, do your research, because I am totally self-employed, but you can keep, I often recommend keeping a part-time job so that you have consistent income coming in. And then you also can work on your own work in your own time and decide what you want to do and figure it out without worrying about 100% of your income coming from that one thing. And starting out, if you can't pursue school right away, if you don't feel like you can just jump into painting full time, which can be terrifying and not always the best decision, you can start slowly, as slow as you need, with small steps. You can paint in the evening, you can create on the weekend, you can open a social media account, you can claim a platform on so many websites now and share your work in an easy to build way, rather than making it a big and dramatic statement right off the bat. And that's what I did. I went slowly but surely. I just built my website, I created an Instagram, and I just began to share my work. And as I consistently did that, I was able to build up that audience of people who were willing to invest in it as much as I was. But I would say if you don't have the support that you want to right now, to, share examples, to ask yourself how much it means to you. If this is something you are really passionate about, that you really want to try for yourself, I would say just go do it, because this is your life that you're building. This is your living. This is your future that you're doing. And being passionate about your work, being able to engage in your creativity is a wonderful, wonderful experience, especially when you're able to share it full time. So I'd say go slowly and show those people that it is something you can do, both through your own progress with your artwork and then with others' achievements as well.
Thank you. That was really insightful answer. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Anyone else have any questions? Sophie and Aisha, do you guys have anything?
No, I was gonna go down the same route as you, just ask like if you didn't have like the support system. And like I just find it interesting that you said that we could get started so late. I feel like that's really motivating, especially for people who feel like they're too late to pursue their dreams.
Oh, for sure. I know that my favorite quote has been that an artist told me. I'm not sure where she got it or who shared it with her, but it's just do what you can, where you are, with what you have. Because especially with artwork, a lot of us have preconceived notions. We have opinions and influences on what we think art should be. For me, art was massive oil paintings that were painted by the masters and hanging in museums. That was all I could create. It was just a very limiting box, and it felt like an impossible task to be able to go that direction. If you look at my work, it doesn't look anything like the oil paintings that I thought art had to be. I don't even paint in oils anymore. I completely switched, and realizing that now you can truly shape a path and a creative career that aligns with you and is really unique, and it's your own way. It's an amazing, it's just an amazing gift you can give yourself. You can start with crayons and copy paper and you'll be absolutely fine. It's all about tapping into your creativity and pursuing something that means a lot to you. Pursuing your passion is so important, even if it doesn't become a career, even if you do it on the side, even if you do it in little 5-minute increments. It is so important that you give yourself the opportunity to at least use your gifts, use your talents, even if it doesn't become a full-time career. And I think that that can be the pressure that we put on ourselves with something that can feel like a gamble, like going into business for yourself or doing something that's pretty scary, like painting for a living. Sometimes all we need is just that small step of crayons on copy paper to just get ourselves started, and starting small in non-intimidating ways. That is a really, really good gift that you can give yourself.
Right. We have Fatma, if you want to ask your question.
Yeah, I had a question. So, do you think that art is something that comes naturally in a person and it cannot be learned the way that we learn science or other subjects? You think art is only something that, you know, how only some people can tongue roll or something? So, is that the same thing with art or can you learn it?
I think you can learn it. I often don't feel like I am very creative as a person, which I hear a lot of rebuttals to because I do creative things for a living, but I don't feel necessarily innately creative. And so I feel like art is learned. You learn what you like. You may have natural inclinations towards art. You may like black and white line drawings better than colorful abstracts, or you might like to do ceramics more than you like to weave. You might have natural inclinations based off of who you are and your personality, but you build on those things. Everybody has a base that they start from, and from there, they can pick and choose between what's out there that they would like to make more of, that they'd like to combine, that they'd like to play with. So there are some rules like color theory. Those are things that you learn that, or techniques. Those tend to be more of like a science and math, but it only goes so far. Then you have that curiosity where you can mix things together, where you can experiment, where you can play. And that's where your creativity comes in. And that's more of a muscle. That's something everybody has, but it comes out differently. And some people will say, yes, there are certain ways you have to be an artist, but I'm totally not for that anymore. And I believe that most of us emerging artists are pushing against that as well, because we all do art so differently, but we do it in a way that works. So yes, art can be learned, but everybody has a bottom line that they build from, and that tends to be your personality and what you're already naturally inclined to.
Thank you so much for that. I had one last question, unless someone else says, how'd you kind of come up with your niche? So I was looking through your website and you have a lot of bright colors, super, super pretty. So kind of how were you attracted to that? And then like, as you said, portraits and such. So like your specialty when it came to art, putting you aside from different, artists.
Yeah, so I actually started with watercolor lettering and florals. So very different from where I am now. Probably the only similar thing about that is colors. And then through painting and through making things, I began to realize I'm more interested in portraits than I am in florals. And as that continued to grow, I realized, okay, the people who are looking at my work are also more interested in portraits than florals. And so when you make a pivot from creating just for yourself, where you can do whatever you want, to beginning to listen to other people and make a business out of it and produce a product, then you have a compromise. And so my compromise sits in portraiture, which can be very stiff. I was like, I don't want to do stiff portraits. And I'm glad, because a lot of the market trends that are going on right now, and a lot of the things that you see in stores are very brightly colored, and they're a lot more fun. So I've been able to take some of those appealing trends and incorporate them into portraiture, which is a timeless subject, but making it more fun. So I would say a lot of settling into my own niche was learning what I liked, and then listening to the people who liked my artwork, and then beginning to create a focus around it. And when you begin to build your business, having that focus in that area of your product that the majority of your customers are interested in, that's very important. But a lot of my personal work, a lot of the work that I don't share or I do before I work on client projects, that stuff is all over the place. Sometimes it's very dramatic, sometimes it's black and white. But when you make that shift into creating a business around it, you want to have a focus so that people can say, oh, Rachel, I know her. She does very brightly colored portraits. That's what she does. And then people have something to associate with you. So most of it was exploration, and then the rest was listening to what was being said back.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Anyone else
Okay.
have any further questions? All right, then Pooja, if you want to close this session.
Thank you so much for coming.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was really motivational. So everyone that's here, our next one is gonna be at 9:30 PST. So if you guys want to leave or come back, anything's fine. And Rachel, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me again.
Thank you.
Bye.
See
Bye.
everyone in around an hour.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna put everyone in the waiting room. All right. Okay, it's just us.